So welcome you all to the 12th edition of 361 Wealth Hurun India Rich List. The World Cup has begun and India is doing some really good performance on field, and I think we won the last match with very good bowling and batting. So today we're going to speak about how did we do in terms of wealth creation. So it's all about speaking about the wealth creation story from an Indian context. What is the 361 Wealth Hurun India Rich List? What does it mean to us and to me specifically? So we put out the list in 2012. It's about 12 years now. So from our perspective really, the Rich List is all about speaking about the story of Indian economy through the eyes of entrepreneurs. And the way I look at it is I take in 2012, I take a photo of the Rich List. Then I take a photo every year, and for 12 years, and I look at these photos and see how these photographs have changed in terms of clarity, crowd, the kind of people, and so on. And that gives me a perspective of how the economy has progressed through the eyes of these entrepreneurs. And it's quite exciting, the Indian journey. Just to give you some numbers, comparing to what it was a few years back to now. When we launched the first Rich List, our India's GDP was about 1.8 trillion US, and now it's about 3.4 to 3.5 trillion, and the GDP has gone up by around 88%. During this last 12 years, the top 10 in the Rich List, 2012 was about 31,000 crores, and now it's about 1,20,000 crores. That's grown up by almost 6-7 times. The top 50, to enter the top 50 of the 361 Wealth Hurun India Rich List, it was about 6,000 crores in 2012, and now it's about 31,400 crores. To enter top 100, for instance, the valuation to hit the top 100 was about 1,800 crores in 2012, and now it's about 21,000 crores. That's increased almost by 10 times. And even in terms of the number of dollar billionaires, when we launched the list 12 years back, it was about 59 billionaires from India. Now it's about 259. So that's gone up by almost 5 times as well. And when you look at a specific number, which is a list of individuals with a net worth of 5,000 crore rupees, in 2012, that number was 61. Now it's 408. So that's the increase. That's the kind of the wealth creation story that's happened in India over the last 10, 12 years. Even if you look at the wealth distribution, right? India in 2012, we had about 10 to 15 cities from which these wealth creators featured in the 361 Wealth Hurun India Rich List. Now that number has gone up to 95, which includes cities, towns, villages, and so on. That's just Indian. Now, if you look at Indian diaspora, that number is almost touching 140. So this is what is quite exciting about the 361 Wealth Hurun India Rich List. We see this evolution of the India story through the eyes of entrepreneurs. And I'll share some more trends as we speak. If you look at this year's Rich List specifically, we have about 1,319 individuals spread across 138 cities in India and outside India together who has a wealth of about 1,000 crores and above. And cumulative wealth has increased by almost 9%, and almost 1,050 individuals saw their wealth increase or stay the same. Some of the top performing industries included industrial products, metals and mining, and they are the greatest number of addition to the list. Pharma is still number one, has contributed about 133 entrants to the list. The youngest in the list is 20. And the oldest in the list is 93, and he's a new entrant to the list as well. The richest this year is Mr. Mukesh Ambani of Reliance Industries. And as I mentioned earlier, we have about 95 cities from which these wealth creators have come from. And there are almost, and this wealth creation has happened from more than 50 plus industries across the country. Now, one of the key questions that we're trying to answer while we're doing research on the list is, how did India do compared to the rest of the world? Just as mentioned earlier, India added almost 278 new entrants, and we've added almost 38 US dollar billionaires in the last 1 year. This is despite dollar appreciating by 3% year on year. If that had not happened, the number of dollar billionaires that were to be added to the list would have been more than 50. Now, just to give you some perspective, when you look at the Hurun China rich list, over the last 2 years, the China rich list has lost 10% of their wealth creators year on year. So when China rich list has been shrinking, that benefit seems to come to India, where the rich list is expanding in India. One interesting aspect which we found while doing research, and which is quite interesting and which is kind of tied to the trend that I mentioned earlier, is that in 2012, the top wealth creating sector from India was software and services. Now, all top 3 positions are occupied by manufacturing companies, and software and services is only number 4. Don't get me wrong, they've added new entrants to the list, but what this clearly shows is that there is some kind of indication that India is moving to a manufacturing economy as well. That's at least that's what the trend in the 361 Wealth Hurun India rich list says. Of course, we've got a lot more gap to fill, but this is definitely a good indication. Another interesting trend, which I believe is very much a catalyst for wealth creation from a next-gen entrepreneurs or professionals or investors or women wealth creators and so on, is the intergenerational wealth transfer. Almost 65% of the list is above 60, which, if we assume that the wealth transfer happens after the age of 70, our estimate is that in the next 10 to 15 years, we are, just by looking at the 2023 edition of 361 Wealth Hurun India Rich List, we expect almost $1 trillion of wealth being transferred to the next generation. So just to give you an idea, that is a combined GDP of UAE and Singapore that's being transferred to the next generation. And this really is going to create a lot more next-gen wealth creators, more and more women wealth creators in the family, possibly taking leadership positions, more investors creating wealth, more professional managers coming to the list, and so on. This is going to be a very interesting trend and something which I look forward to as well. And I did briefly touch upon the number of cities. It's very, very clear that, and even if you look at the press release that you have with you, the top 20 cities, there are quite a lot more representation of tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? With the number was 10 about 12 years back, and it's 95 now, right? 3 years back, during one of these press conferences, I had mentioned that we would see in 5 years, wealth creators coming from at least 100 cities in 5 years. But that kind of got accelerated, and we already have it from 95 cities. That's from just India, right? Cities, villages, towns, and so on. Another interesting trend, which I thought, there are quite very nice set of new entrants that are there in the list, but one trend that I really wanted to spotlight was the addition of a private equity fund manager to the list. This is for the first time that we have a private equity fund manager who debuted the 361 Wealth Hurun India Rich List. It's Manish Kejriwal of Kedara Capital. And just to give you an idea, so he is, his wealth as we calculated is shy of about $500 million US. But then, give you an idea, the US has about 12 billionaires. As per the Hurun US billionaires, there are 12 billionaires who are also fund managers in the US. So I really think private equity is going to be a huge source of capital for Indian companies to grow to the next level, and more homegrown local private equity players creating wealth, adding more capital to the economy that will have a significant impact in terms of wealth creation in the country. And this is a really good sign, and we hope to see more and more top private equity fund managers to enter the list in the coming years. Some of the industries that has done well, I think I didn't mention about industrial products, and which added about 33 new entrants. But one trend that I thought was quite interesting was the stockbroking companies, entrepreneurs. They seem to have had a good year as well. This could be due to the rising discretionary spending, financial literacy, thanks to all the influencers who've been spreading messages that stock market's a great thing, come and start investing, and so on. Then catalytic impact of COVID-19 and so on. So all these three factors have encouraged more retail investment activities in stock market. it's quite a cliche that we always say that India's stock market penetration is only 3%, China has 15%, US is 55%, and that's a gap, and a lot more wealth is going to be created through stock market and so on. But I really think this time it's different because there is a significant knowledge levels that's been imparted to the next generation in terms of investing, and also there is awareness in terms of using discretionary income to possibly spend or invest in stock markets. And also thanks to all of you, more and more wealth creation stories are being told in the market, and that is also encouraging young earning professionals to also look at stock markets as an interesting avenue. So I really think this is one sector that needs to be looked out for, and we could see a lot more wealth creation there. Yeah, we spoke about all the good things. Of course, we all know that startups as a whole has been affected due to high inflation environment, which resulted in funding environment, and funding winter and so on. And EdTech is one of the most, of course, affected sectors. And we've, in the 361 Wealth Hurun India Rich List 2023, the founders of startup, we estimate have lost about 85,000 crores of wealth. So that's definitely because of the current environment. We hope that turns back later. So really need, in a country like India, for us to really have an exponential growth in GDP from current levels to match to the goals that we have in mind at a country level. It's important that innovation is supported in the country. But things like retrospective GST and angel tax and all, that could have a negative impact. We really hope more and more good regulatory support system is there for startups to innovate, and investors to take more riskier bets in Indian market. But having said that, there is also some bit of positive change in the stock markets as well. Zomato or Policy Bazaar, which was an all-time lows last year, they've gained some amount their value back, and that's actually quite interesting for startups who intends to be profitable and which would in turn list. But from my perspective, I really hope India should be providing more and more entrepreneurs who are creating for the next decade or next 2 decades, which means we would like to see more wealth creators coming from space tech, climate tech, sustainability, AI, and so on. That's one area which we would like to see more investments and more activity from an Indian context. So these are some of the few points that I wanted to share with you. We'll have more discussions later. Once again, I would love to thank our partner, 361 Wealth here, Yatin, Ronak, and team here. And it's such an amazing opportunity to really speak about the wealth creation stories of India. We really look at the data and try to make sense of what's going on, but sometimes on the ground pragmatic thought process of 361 Wealth gives us some more understanding of what's going on the ground. And thank you all for coming, and it's such a pleasure meeting all of you again. Look forward to talking to you later. Thank you. Cheers.